Hoi there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to a new Football Talks Power Rankings edition, and we are now into Week 12. Going into Week 12, there were there's a few upsets of the week, as well as some interesting shakeups. But let's just get right into it as always. Let's start with Tier 4, teams 25 through 32, and well, the bottom shifted up, has made a few shifts. The 49ers only dropped because of a bye week, and the Giants won a game against the Chiefs, which, to be honest, I really should have dropped the Chiefs harder, maybe. I don't know, going from 8 to 13 is a pretty fair drop for them, and they are still very much alive in the playoff hunt, especially for their division, but the Giants, they're done, but they're just tanking. But this is not helping for their tank, considering the Browns are all but guaranteed the first round pick unless they start winning games. But another shift, a small shift, was the Texans getting a win on Andre Johnson night. A good thing for them. Tom Savage has settled in, and well, if the Texans can win this week, they could move up a bit more, and they are still very much alive for a playoff spot as well. It's just because the AFC is so soft, but they're in a position where they can't really make any more mistakes, and winning against a team like Baltimore will help in that start. But anyway, that's really all I can mention. The Colts stay where they are because they had a bye week, but this is where things get really convoluted. There are so many teams outside of the playoff hunt already, and that's what tiers 3 and 4 are all about. But tier 2 is going to have some renovations, which I'll get to that in a minute, but let's start with teams that you may say, oh, some of these should still be in the playoff hunt, but they are not helping each other at all. Look, let's start with tier 3 and start at the top instead. Washington. They had a lead and they blew it. They could have made a statement win and saved their season because they're 4-6. They could win out and still very much miss the playoffs. Like I've said before in both the podcast and here, if you're an NFC team, you need to go 11-5 if you can't win your division somehow. You need to go 11-5 for a chance. Even that is not a guarantee. 12-4 is probably a guarantee, but if you go 12-4 and you can't even win your division, I need to ask: are you playing against another dominant powerhouse? Which that might be the exception for one team here, which we'll get to later. But for now, Washington, you would have made a statement win, and you would have climbed up into the power rankings, possibly caressing the top 10 spots you once held in the early parts of the season. Their injuries are just catching up to them now, and then they lost Chris Thompson for the year. A huge loss, and again, this is why I hate this season, because so many star players are going out for the year, and trust me, the pain does not stop there for running backs. It was a bad week for running backs, but let's move down from now. Well, Tampa Bay rose up a bit, going from 26 to 18. It's actually perhaps my biggest rise of the week, 8 spots. It's just because they've leapfrogged over so many of these teams, because, well, they beat the Jets that week, and they beat the Dolphins this week, this was the game that was meant to be week 1, but really, I'm a little impressed by how the Bucs are getting their crap together with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not saying he's better than Winston or anything, but yeah, my Jameis Winston hype is slowly fading away, but either way, the Bucs are winning games when they're not supposed to, which is, I guess, good, but what are they going to do when they need to start winning games? Because right now, they're just playing for a better record, but I say just embrace the tank. But this is coming from an Astros fan who said who now just realized embracing the tank for a couple of years may be good if you can hit on the draft picks. Speaking of teams that refuse to embrace the tank, the Jets. Oh boy, the Jets, they're finally accepting it, but it might be too little too late. Going 4-12 may only net you a 6th or 7th overall pick. They need to be top 5, and maybe the other teams like the Giants and the 49ers can lose a few more games. I don't know about the Bears. Bears looking like they're going to tank, but either way. Poor old Jets. Poor old New York Jets fans. I mean, there's always scam for Sam, but the thing is, Sam Darnold said if the Browns are good drafting first and they're going to go for him, he's just going to go back to college for another year. It takes a special level of bad to make players say, nah, if I can avoid it, I'm not going into the draft until I absolutely have to. So a smart move by the kid. I always say go for it 4 years unless you're really that talented. But yeah, we'll see. And plus, if your stock goes down, that's not that big of a deal because a good team might pick you up. instead. Like a playoff team that may need a quarterback soon may pick you up instead, but like Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre and all that. But anyway, speaking of the Packers, yikes. They had everyone's hopes up. I only dropped them 2 spots, but it's just, can I put them below the Broncos and the Colts? I really wanted to, but out of respect for the organization, I can't just yet. I really want to, but I mean, it's just, there's so many bad teams right now. What am I supposed to do? Anyway, let's move on to Tier 2. Okay, Tier 2, as you know, I've labeled it as the frisky tier. These teams can make a playoff push. They can maybe sneak into the wild card or sneak in to win the division, steal it from the top 10 teams. But to be honest, I'll put it this way, especially if you're an NFC team on this list, you are really on the outside looking in. 6-4 is not a bad record. That's nothing to sneeze at. You're no slouches. But in this division, let's look at the top NFC teams. 9-1, 8-2, 8-2, 7-3, 7-3, and 6-4. To be fair, the Falcons shouldn't be in there. They should be 5-5. But NFL, if that comes back to the Lions should scorn the NFL once more because of that stupid call. But either way, let's start with Detroit, actually. You beat the Bears. It was a come from behind. I only moved them up 2 spots, kind of like what you did with the Browns. Like, you beat a bad team. In fact, this was even worse than the Browns game because you were losing to them even more than the Browns. You let the Bears come back in even better than the Browns did last week, which is something to worry about when you consider they're playing the Vikings this week. So have fun with that. Hoping you could do it. If you want the NFC North to stay alive, you need the Lions to win. If you just want pure NFC chaos, that's the way to go. Either way, another team. This is surprising for some, but I'm taking a chance on them, and I'll give you a little bit of reason why. The Chargers. They're 4-6. You should be saying, why are you putting them in tier 2, the frisky tier? And remember, I said NFC teams on here are not in the frisky tier. They kind of are, but they are on the outside looking in. The AFC teams, on the other hand, are very much alive. The Chiefs, even if they're stupid and choking all these games away after going 5-0, they're still in it. They can still win their division. Like, well, who's the biggest threat? The Chargers and the Raiders? I really doubt they can get in their face again. But either way, the next up, for the Ravens and the Chargers, they can make a run for it. Some of them have easy schedules. Ravens have a couple games that may be a bit of a challenge. Like, obviously, you got to play Pittsburgh again. This time over there, if I'm not mistaken. Then you got to play the Texans this week, and the next week you got to play the Lions. I think those are both consecutive Monday Night Football games, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't think I've ever seen a team go back-to-back hosting Monday Night Football games at their stadium. That is very rare. I get it. It seems like Monday Night Football loves Detroit and Baltimore, it seems. I've noticed they like to go there a lot. Either way, Ravens can make a push, and they have a little more wiggle room. Like, basically, they can lose a game, and they could still be in it. 9-7 is enough to win a playoff spot, a wild card spot in the AFC, whereas the NFC, you may need to go 12-4 for guaranteed spots. But as for the Chargers, they have less room for error. They can't lose it. They can maybe lose one more game, and that's it. But their schedule, they have the Cowboys this week. And then they got to play, I think they got to play the Browns and Washington, who's injury riddled, by the way. You get to host the Raiders at the end of the year. The only game that may be troublesome is going to, you got to go to Kansas City, which at this point, they may not even be afraid of Kansas City anymore. I'm not. Either way, they look like they could make a run for it, but they just can't fuck up on the games that they're expected to win. You make a push like that, win all but one game, you can get in the wild card spot, no problem. So the Chargers are alive, if you ask me. They can be alive. They just need to make that run. They can make that dominant run and get in the playoffs. As for, say, teams like Seattle, well, I'm sorry, man. My friend Chicken Fajita, I had to drop them. It was just a small amount this time because I still think they're better than the Chiefs and the Ravens, but another loss like that, and I may just say they're done because, to be honest, unless the Rams lose with you on that week and the Rams get another head start on you, it's going to be bad. Now then, let's move before we get to move on to that, Jags and Titans. They're right next to each other. Now, for now, the Jags are ahead. I actually got a Jags guy giving me a lot of crap. I said be respectful, and well, he did not want to meet that criteria. Either way, hey Jags fan, one thing I want to note. There you go. You're finally in the top 10. You're at number 9. I want to put you over the Falcons, but to be honest, at least Matt Ryan's playing way better than Blake Bortles. And before you tell me, no, Blake Bortles isn't the problem. Both of these 2 games that you won, the other team could have taken a touchdown and won. And why? Because your quarterback was having a meltdown. And I feel like it's a ticking time bomb. Sooner or later, Blake Bortles is going to have a huge meltdown, and that's going to be that. That's going to be it. And it might cost you a spot. Or if it happens in the playoffs, when you're playing a real team, obviously, oh boy, you're going to lose. And maybe make a push for Eli Manning. That's all I can say. Titans, I'm not surprised they lost to the Steelers, but they can still come back into this. I mean, they have the advantage over Jacksonville now. That inevitable confrontation, which should be a Sunday Night Football game, the final Sunday Night Football game of Jags at Titans. Yeah, who would have thought? That used to be a boring game to watch on Thursday night for the past few years, and now it could decide the division, or rather, it will decide the division. And they might just put it out for Cowboys, Eagles, just because, even though the Cowboys have no playoff hope, just because they love the ratings. Al and Chris, let's all admit it, they love the NFC East. Anyway, the Rams have dropped. Let's move to Tier 1. The Rams have dropped only a few spots because of the loss to the Vikings, and it was very putrid. Either way, they're still in the run for their own division. They have the lead right now in terms of a record, but when they play Seattle, that will decide who wins the division. But until then, just keep winning your games. And they have a huge matchup again. Like I said, this is the all-out war era period for the NFC. And you should be excited. Some good games still coming, hopefully. I mean, the Vikings-Rams game, which, speaking of, the Vikings have moved up to pretty much replace them. They switched spots, I think. Or, no, actually, the Vikings were number 6, so the Panthers moved up to their spot, and the Rams went down to the Panthers spot. Yeah. Really weird trade-up. Anyway, the Vikings are in good position because they just, at the end of the game, exploded and just murdered the Rams. They were halting them. It was 7-7 most of the way through. It looked like a really ugly defensive slugfest. But after a while, the Rams just slipped up, and it cost them the game. What else can you say? Patriots still 8-2. Some people have them at number 2, and I can understand why. But to be honest, I think the NFC, I just like the Saints, even though they were coming down from a game, they were coming from behind in this game at home. They were playing against Kirk Cousins, who was a good Kirk Cousins, I should say. He was playing really good for 59 minutes, but then that last minute didn't help at all. Either way, the Saints are still in a good position, and well, look, if they beat the Rams, they're staying there. But if they lose, I'll move the Patriots up. I think that's a fair deal. And Philadelphia just thrashed the Cowboys. I really wanted to put the Cowboys lower on this list, but I just can't put them below Washington, Tampa Bay, or Oakland. It's just, give me a break. That 16 and below is such a convoluted mess. No matter what I do, somebody's going to say somebody doesn't belong in that spot. And I think that's a fair criticism. It's always a fair criticism. I'll not deny that. I'm just doing it as the best as I feel like I can do. I don't think any expert here could really put this properly, because some teams are worse than their position and some teams are better than the position that they're given. But it's just how it is. Anyway, we're getting through this early, it seems. So let's say we get to the 5 games to watch this week. Alright, so we're starting with Thursday night. Or should I say Thanksgiving night? Yeah, we're in the Thanksgiving extravaganza, and well, this is where the final stretch begins, and we start with the most important game, but it's only the noon game for me. Vikings at Lions. The Lions beat them last time, but if the Lions still want to be in this division race and possibly go for a nice home or or I wouldn't say get a nice home game and possibly a bye week. I mean, it depends on how the Saints and the Eagles do. But at that point, this game really does matter because if the Vikings win, the division's theirs virtually. It's all theirs. But if the Lions win, they have to win out. Here's the thing: if the Lions beat this team again, and both teams consecutively win out every game after this week, I should say, after week 12, they win weeks 13 through 17. The Vikings still win, just by having the slightly better record, because as you know, Vikings are 8-2, Lions are 6-4. But the Vikings need to lose another game, and while the Lions win out, and they can take the division, possibly. Either way, this game is very important. Possibly one of the most important games of the week. It's tied with another game, which I'll get to that one in a minute. Second game, another Thanksgiving game, Chargers at Cowboys. Cowboys are done. That's just, to me, a fact. Some Cowboys fans like, oh, it's not over till it's over. I think so. I think it's over. Unless you win out every single game, which not a lot of these games look good for you. This game is winnable. This one's a bit of a toss-up, but I'm going with the Chargers here because I don't know. I feel like considering how bad the left side of the offensive line for the Cowboys is, Joey Bosa, I expect him to be lined up on that side and just have his way with whoever's replaced Tyron Smith. And while the run game has been silent, I think they can run all over the Chargers defense a bit, but we'll see. If the Chargers win this game, it starts the attempt of a run for a wild card spot, and this is a big game for the Chargers right now. This is perhaps like the best interconference matchup this week, or the most important one, I should say. Anyway, let's get to the third game. This is in Sunday, of course, so that the Thanksgiving game is a joke. Either way, so let's move on to. Alright, I got you one. Bills Chiefs. You know I love throwing you the curveballs, the ones you don't expect. Why is this one important? Well, look, Chiefs clearly need this win to stay alive for their division. They want a home game at least, because it's the possibility of home field advantage throughout the playoffs is being completely stolen by the Steelers and the Patriots simultaneously. One of them's going to get it. We know that's a fact. That's most likely a fact. So the Chiefs need to win this one because Buffalo, they are free falling because Nathan Peterman was apparently a better choice than Tyrod Taylor. Let that sink in. Sean McDermott just gave up his Coach of the Year award already to Sean McVay. He didn't want it, so he just gave it to Sean McVay. Okay, man, I can't be mad at you. That's a very selfless steal. But I mean, you had to make your team suffer for it, but okay. So it'll be interesting. I expect Tyrod Taylor to be out, but if Nathan Peterman's got back out there, oh, Chiefs, you cannot fuck that up. You cannot mess that up, and you cannot give the Bills a chance because the Bills are shutting the door on themselves. It's not like, oh, this team just shut the door on the other team, killing their playoff hopes. No, they are shutting the door on themselves. They clearly don't want to go in. They finally realized, oh yeah, we need a tank so we can get a good draft pick. Buffalo will be in need of a quarterback, and if they have 2 first-round picks, remember, they have the Chiefs' first-round pick because good old Pat Mahomes is there. Which I know people want Pat Mahomes to start, and I wouldn't mind it, but that's if I see the Chiefs lose this game, I would be chanting for Pat Mahomes to start, or to get his first start, because if Deshaun Watson was that good when he came out, I expect Pat Mahomes to be Joe Montana or something. Either way, should be interesting. I got the Chiefs in this one. Next up, game number 4. This is the game that I said tied with the Vikings-Lions for most important game of the week. Saints at Rams. This one's big. The battle for a possible bye week is at stake here, not just home field advantage. Because, well, the Saints have a shot at it. They just need the Eagles to slip up, because bad news is they are not playing the Eagles this year, which is a shame. I really wish we could see that happen. Either way, I think the Saints will get a good old upset of the week. I wouldn't say the Rams are free falling, but they are really jeopardizing their risk. I feel like the Rams are a good team, but I haven't seen them beat a great team. Not many great teams. Some people say the Cowboys were great. I don't think so. They lost to Washington, which at that time Washington looked set for a team that didn't look that good in the off season. And, well, they have lost to the Seahawks, who were still really good at that point in time. And now they've lost to the Vikings, arguably the best NFC team in football. Or the best team in the NFC. That isn't the Eagles. Either way, I'm going Saints as an upset of the week here. And then Game 5. This one was very tough. Very tough for me because I couldn't tell. Because most of them are just one team playing against a bum team. Like, say, Patriots hosting the Dolphins or Eagles hosting the Bears. But I finally decided on one. And this one is going to be weird, but it's another bit of a curveball. Arguably even worse than Bills-Chiefs. Because at least with those two teams, they're both in the playoff hunt. This one, you could argue neither are, but only one of them is, kind of. Texans at Ravens, Monday Night Football. Why? The Texans looked pretty good on offense that last week against the Cardinals. And that's not to say the Cardinals are bad, because, I mean, sure, the Cardinals, with Bethea, I got my radar on him because he knocked out Deontay Foreman's Achilles. He tore it. He hit him in the the leg as he was trying to tackle him. But aside from that, I lost one of my favorite running backs to watch that was a rookie. So there was that. That's bad news. But still, Tom Savage looked pretty good. The Ravens, however, looked even better. They shut out another team again. They shut out the Packers in Lambeau. Very impressive. Which you could say, oh, then why aren't the Ravens a playoff team already? Well, the thing is, they are so inconsistent. I was saying in the beginning of the year the Jags look like the ultimate 8-8 team where they dominate, then they flop, dominate, and they flop. Well, the Jags have settled in. The Ravens, I can't even tell you if they've settled in or not, because one week they look so good, and like, oh yeah, this is they look like the 2000 Ravens, or the Ravens that beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Dominant defense. And yet, I'm still not sure about what to expect from these guys. Either way, we'll see. I'm gonna go with the Ravens just because they're at home, but every time I pick for them, I'm wrong, and every time I pick against them, I'm wrong. So I don't know. Maybe I'm doing a bit of a jinx pick to hope the Texans win, because even though the Texans are done for the year, I still want them to win games just so they don't give the Browns a top 10 draft pick. I really don't want that to happen. Either way, that'll do it for your 5. So your 5 games are Vikings at Lions, Chargers at Cowboys, Chiefs or Bills at Chiefs, Saints at Rams, and Texans at Ravens. Should be a good week of football. There's some good games. Those are mainly the good ones. Well, 3 of them are actually really going to be really, really good. Either way, feel free to chime in, sharing your opinion on if you like or dislike where your team or where certain teams are in the power rankings. You're free to agree or disagree, but just remember, don't be a dick about it. We can have the conversation. I welcome the conversation. But yeah, I will see you guys next week.